Welcome to the Yoga Voice, a podcast by City Yoga, School of Yoga and Health. Our guests discuss how the contemporary practice of this ancient art transforms the lives of individuals and communities in the Midwest and beyond. City Yoga has been a center for the practice of yoga and yoga teacher training since opening in 2002. Join us as we explore how yoga inspires and transforms.
Thank you all for tuning in to the Yoga Voice today. My name's Dave Sims. I'll be speaking with Neil McGuffog today from At the Core. Neil will share his yoga journey with us and let us know how he made that transition from a corporate career to a second career running At the Core, a company he founded which takes wellness practices into corporate settings. He works through a group class environment. And he's in all around central Indiana, all different types of business and industry. And we're excited to hear from Neil today and hope you all enjoy. Neil, welcome.
Thank you, Dave. Glad to be here.
So let's just start off with telling our audience a little bit about your yoga journey, what your life was like, what happened, what it's like today.
Indeed. Yoga journey for me began about 12 years ago with the gentleman that's sitting across the microphone from me, Dave Sims, when there was some training going on for some distance running. And Dave, you suggested that this yoga thing, which was you were relatively new into it, would be good for injury prevention, for overall well-being and helping with breathing. And being a kind of a movement enthusiast for my entire life, the first session I was in, I was booked. I was hooked. I was just hooked right away that this yoga thing was something that I really wanted to embrace. Sure, it was going to help with injury prevention and keeping the body in tune for some of the long distance running. And then about 7 years ago, the suggestion was, well, maybe think about teacher training. And so the teacher training concept was introduced to me again by yourself and taking my practice deeper. At the time, those 4 or 5 years at the beginning were about the movement, not so much about what it looked like to go deeper into my practice until the teacher training aspect came into view. And it was eye-opening that time together, those many weeks together with other practitioners and the teachers just was transformative, as many people say in the teacher training that do teacher training throughout the city and here at City Yoga. It was those combination, those two things, training for running and then becoming open to the opportunity to become a registered yoga teacher has been part of my yoga journey ever since, and subsequently led to doing what I'm doing today.
Now, what were you doing prior to what you're doing today?
Good question. I'd spent, frankly, almost 27 years in the corporate wellness space, I should say in the corporation, working for corporations. And the last 15 of those 27 years was with a corporate wellness company selling large-scale wellness programming to Midwest companies around my territories, Indiana, Kentucky, Ohio, Tennessee, and Illinois. 15 years in a space that I really gelled with when I launched into that space. These were large-scale employers we targeted. The smallest group we would work with would be 500 employees up to 5,000, even 10,000. The goal was to try to engage with their C-suite people, the directors of human resources, the senior vice presidents of finance, the chief financial officers, in an attempt to sell them on the idea of what these corporate wellness programs could do for their staff and their employees, help them boost morale, help them reduce absenteeism rates, help them lower overall health insurance costs. And after about 10 or 11, 12 years, I started to kind of wane. My interest started to wane in that. And the last 3 years I just wasn't feeling it. And my yoga practice was deepening, and I saw a niche. I saw an opportunity with area employers who were smaller in numbers, like less than 200 employees or less than 100 employees, who weren't being served by these wellness companies, the health improvement and health promotion companies. They just didn't want to deal with the smaller staff. And I thought, that might be a niche that could use some wellness programming, and so hence the opportunity to launch At the Core.
Awesome. And it sounds like you're continuing to grow and bring health and wellness to a variety of people. What kind of companies are you getting into?
Good question. Yes, it has grown. It started out with just 2 or 3 organizations, up to 12 to 13 clients. Again, small employers under 200 lives, even under 100 lives, maybe even under 50 lives. And the rationale there is to try to get to the decision maker, the person who owns the organization, so I could talk to him or her about what we do and the importance of keeping their staff healthy and moving. I use the phrase, if you move, you improve. So again, smaller scale companies, smaller employers, office supply companies, electrical engineers, marketing communications firms, small accounting companies, a couple of manufacturers. There's a school corporation that we do some business with. And basically anybody who's got space on site in their office that can accommodate or embraces this type of programming under their health promotion programming, or if they make this a part of their health promotion program.
It sounds like people that are at a desk 9 to 5, more or less.
Yes, we're, sitting is the new smoking, has been termed in the wellness arena lately, because sitting is frankly having an adverse effect on, much of our population because of the number of hours we sit and stay sedentary. So certainly it's impacting low back issues, hamstring issues, productivity issues, and just keeping people in that less movement-based phase and keeping them more sedentary, which is going to lead to some health issues. So yes, certainly well-intentioned people get, maybe set their watches to move every 45 minutes or every hour and a half or 2 hours. But here we have bringing in some, either generally speaking, 90% of the time, yoga sessions to the workplace. Sometimes it's mat Pilates. We've also had some mindfulness and some meditation sessions in an effort to get people to decompress, to unwind, to move, to reduce the amount of sedentary places that sedentary positions that they're taking at the workplace. I have students tell employees, say, "Gosh, it's been 3.5, 4 hours before I've actually remembered to stand."
That's very cool. You mentioned earlier that when you were going through your training, particularly in yoga, that it was a transformative experience. In what ways do you mean that it was transformative?
The yoga practice is, for me, as I've heard and read and talked to other practitioners, is more not just the process of moving the body in the asanas or in the movements, but it's also looking at your psyche, looking at what my internal composition is about, how I perceive my world from the inside out. So we talk about yoga being, the connection of mind, body, spirit, or there's the yoking of elements. And for me, it helped kind of bring that to light, bring it to the forefront that, all my life I've been kind of seeking a spot, seeking a place to integrate my, what I feel is some of my gifts and some of my talents. And yoga helped me peel back the layers of the onion and understand where I could have a positive impact and be of service to those in a community that I was very accustomed to. Again, 27 years in a corporate space in the cubes, taking the elevator to the 5th floor, doing the cube life, the office life, going to the break room, and so on and so forth, the 9 to 5, the 8 to 4. All that was very, very familiar to me. And yet, my yoga journey helped me open up my eyes to the ability to, the opportunity to perhaps help individuals in that particular setting, in that audience. And that's been, the training was pivotal. The training was, brought up stuff from early childhood to adolescence. It brought up different emotions that either I had kind of subdued or stuffed or anesthetized. And the training part, while yes, there was the asanas, the movements, the transitions, the cueing, all vital. It went much deeper for me to understand, what the actual true meaning of yoga is.
Much, much more than physical postures, eh?
Yes, which is, it's interesting. My audience, they look for that first, where the key for me is to try to then also integrate and let them know that, yes, there's a way to go a little deeper. Some of them, embrace that. Some don't, and that's okay. We're just here. I feel I'm here as just a conduit, a source to open people's eyes and give them the opportunity to learn more about themselves, about the practice, about going deeper, and then at the same time helping them reduce their stress.
Very cool. Mm-hmm. And as you were talking, I was thinking back, I think I met you, well over 20 years ago when you were in that corporate scene and I was in a different corporate scene. And neither one of us had any yoga on the radar, maybe some meditation and mindfulness practices that, which I think was kind of a gateway for me to get into yoga. When I first went to my first class, early 2000s, there was a sense of there's like a meditative quality. There's something else going on here besides physical, much like yourself. It was, hey, go try yoga, stretching. It will help you on your marathon training and all that. So that's, I think it's just cool that you've got to, dip into this world and then you're making this amazing impact on the community.
Yeah. So it is truly kind of a dream come true. Although at the time I didn't know how this was all going to unfold. But yes, the running community, it's, have been running for a lot of years, but really seriously the last 15 or so. And I call it my moving meditation. So when I run, I pray. When I pray, I run. There's a combination there. There's moving meditation. So that's a movement part. But then I got to slow down in the practice. I've experienced this before, and I've had students come up to me and other yoga practitioners. At some point along maybe their early journey, the tears just flow. And that happened to me early on. I was thinking, I don't know if it will happen to me. I don't know why I'm so special, what makes me different. But lo and behold, I can't tell you exactly when. Maybe 3, maybe 4 months into it. I can't remember the exact time frame. But when I was relatively new, there was several sessions where there's just the tears are just flowing. And it's just that release. And so I don't know. It's only happened a few times with some of the corporate groups that I have where individuals have come up to me and says, is it okay? Are we supposed to have this kind of, tear flowing kind of experience in the, and I said, well, actually, yeah. Sometimes that happens, not for everybody, but it can be a part of the peeling back, part of the kind of the uncovering of what might be stuffed emotions, might be things that have been stuck energy that just all of a sudden is starting to release either through, just the movements or just the fact that you're breathing, the fact that you're opening yourself up to different breathing patterns, different breathing practices.
And that stuffed emotions, stuffed energy, or, that release, what are some of the benefits of releasing that?
Sure. Just completing some intensive training recently, we know that when the areas in the body have some tension, if there's maybe some inflammation or some tightness, that oftentimes can be attributed to the stuck energy. And when either through the combination of breath and movement, or maybe just the breath, that the energy starts to release, there is this, for me, and I've heard it from some of the students, this kind of an just a feeling of harmony and kind of a release, a letting go, where I think, for me, I'll speak to, I can have a tendency to grip on and to kind of white knuckle things in an effort to just, force square peg in round hole, and just unwilling to let go of old thought patterns or old behaviors or different situations. And so once I have the opportunity to experience, and it's a process, it's, sometimes it takes weeks or months, and sometimes I might stay in a kind of just a kind of a pattern of not experiencing that for a while, and then all of a sudden I'll be in a practice or I'll attend a workshop or something, and boom, I feel that release. And sometimes it's subtle, and sometimes it's more bold. But I think it's a gift, and I would love that as many people could experience that gift that are here, that are listening to this podcast, that are around, that can have the opportunity to feel that release and to experience that emotional letting go.
Oh, that's awesome! Yeah, and I know you and I shared that 5-day intensive with Off the Mat Into the World, and that was a really deep dive into what you were describing as how to dig in and release. What was your